Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the show for leaders who want real results, not more noise. Join Emmanuel Rose as he helps business builders turn AI from a confusing add-on into a practical advantage with clearer messaging, stronger trust, and smarter systems. If you felt the shift happening in real time, you're not imagining it. In the agentic pivot, Emmanuel calls it the move from experimenting with AI to building with it, so it supports your team, your brand, and your growth. Let's get into it.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Today is one of my favorite episodes already, and we haven't even really gotten started. So Robert Douglas and myself have been working on this project called SpecKitty.ai, and this is the unveiling of it to the broader world. Rob has created this thing, and I'm supporting him in getting it out into the world. And Rob, I'm so happy that we're having this conversation.
Me too. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, you have been on quite a roller coaster over the last has it been about 6 months now? You've been working on this?
6 months since the kitty entered my life.
6 long months. Well, what in the world is SpecKitty, and how did you dream it up?
Yeah, SpecKitty is an agentic coding helper. So everybody wants to write code with AI these days, myself included, and everybody wants it to be really high quality and to go really fast and to have a really good handle on what you're actually building. And SpecKitty helps with that in short. How did SpecKitty come about? Well, you know the answer to this because you were involved. You had me on a podcast and said, hey, Rob, why don't you vibe code something on the podcast? And we did this privacy product. And after the podcast, we were like, oh, that's cool. Maybe we should make a product out of that. And so we decided to go into it together, having only met on your podcast. That's just how we roll. And
Absolutely.
We were working on building this privacy product, which is cool. It's still a cool product. And I was frustrated with how quickly it wasn't going. So, it's very precision work building privacy software for private information between LLMs and users. And I just wanted it to go faster, and I wanted it to be better. And So I built SpecKitty, and more about what that is and how it came about in a second. But I kept waking up in the morning saying, today I'm going to build privacy AI so that it's the best privacy software on earth, and SpecKitty's going to help me. And SpecKitty would get going, I'd be watching and be like, wait a minute, SpecKitty, that wasn't quite right. And I'd go fix SpecKitty and make SpecKitty better. And I was doing that out in the open on GitHub and posting about it on LinkedIn. And before I knew it, I was getting hundreds of stars on GitHub, and people started reaching out to me and inviting me to speak and present. And then I was getting hired to do trainings for corporates who wanted to adopt SpecKitty into their development process, as you know. And one day I called and said, Emmanuel, I've got an interesting thing to tell you. Privacy AI isn't the product that we're doing. We're doing SpecKitty. So that's kind of how SpecKitty came about to be, is for a tool for me to build our product better. But she was just so good that she became the product.
You got to love that, because it's a very organic growth, and it's really about how you've got to be dynamic in that. I could have put the brakes on and been sourpuss about it and said, well, I want my product to go first or whatever. But I have a belief that you go where the market takes you, right? And it was cool that you were doing trainings and getting some traction from that, and even having revenue before you really had a complete product. So that's why it was really easy for me to say, yeah, I'm going to support Rob on this one, and then hopefully at some point he'll get to support me on the next one.
Well, in the meantime, you've actually used SpecKitty to build your own stuff as well, and I know what kind of effect that has on your brain. Now you're thinking, whoa, I could use SpecKitty for this and SpecKitty for that.
Yes, indeed, and that is a nice segue into who do you see this product for as you're continuing to march forward into MVP?
Yeah. SpecKitty is definitely for any person or any software development team or engineering team or product team who is looking to benefit from agentic coding capabilities. What do I mean by agentic coding capabilities? I mean you're using Cursor or Claude Code or Codex or Gemini or Windsurf or Kiro or any of the 10 or 20 other frameworks for agentic coding that have been developed in order to have LLMs help you write code faster and or better. And what SpecKitty does is it sits in between you and those tools as a layer of structure, organization, and workflow so that you can do what is called spec coding or specification-driven development.
All right, I love it. So it could be a one man show could use it, or it could be a dev team in a bigger company.
Exactly. And the requirements for both of those are a little bit different. In my trainings, what I'm seeing a lot is companies who have 5, 10, 20 developers who have also legacy code of some sort. So companies that have been building a product for some years and who want to modernize it or move faster or bring it into a new framework. I'm seeing things like Visual Basic 6 into Blazor migrations, for example, a lot.
Yeah.
And what they want is for their existing engineers who have all of the know-how and the cultural, they've been in the company for a long time. They know the product, they know the workflows, they know the other people. They want those people to have more velocity in achieving the business goals. They're not trying to replace those people. They're trying to empower them to be more effective. And they know that agentic coding can do that, but they don't know as a company how that might look like inside of the software development team that exists. Do they still use Jira or Linear? Do they still use GitHub or GitLab? Can they still communicate on Slack or through Teams? Or do they have to throw everything out and start from scratch? Can they still use their existing build and CI/CD processes? Or do they need to rethink everything from the ground up? And what I do when I go in and I train is I have a look around and have people present to me what they're building. And then we find a way for SpecKitty on top of a Cursor or Claude Code or something like that to come in and accelerate the processes that already exist, not throw them away, but build on what they've already got there, and then get the velocity not through disruption, but simply through acceleration.
And so, talk a little bit about what accelerate and velocity looks like in terms of a project and expected length of time for an aspect to get built, and what actually is you're seeing in the trainings.
Yeah, I have a bit of a party trick with that. In my trainings, which are 1 or 2 day workshops, I promise that we're going to take a backlog out of the existing queue of things that need to get done with the company's actual software, and that we're going to do it. And so I've seen an amazing array of results from this. So I'm very relaxed about it. We start out the day with some presentations, some explanation, and then I give SpecKitty demo for an hour or so and ask some questions, answer some questions. Then we make sure SpecKitty is installed, which is quite easy. It's just a Python script. Everybody gets it installed, even Windows users. And then after lunch, the lead developer in the room takes over. So we've got the CEO, the CTO, the product owner, lead developer, some junior developers, maybe other stakeholders, maybe even a customer in the room virtually watching this process. And the lead developer takes over with SpecKitty, with Claude Code, sometimes for the very first time. They've never touched these tools in their life. I'm looking over their shoulder, coaching. And we take a ticket from the backlog, and I make sure that they estimate how long do you think that would take you normally with your normal process. Right. Yep. And the answers are anything from like a couple days to 10 days. I'm like, great, let's do it. And we have run a 10-day ticket through the SpecKitty process, which includes specification, planning, task creation, then a loop of implementation and review around all of the different tasks, an acceptance and a merge phase. So it's one big life cycle. And we have done a 10-day ticket in 4 hours as a team.
Wow. That must get some eyebrows raised.
It does. And a lot of times there are developers who are reticent about the whole process. They've heard AI slop. They've heard AI can't deal with 2 million lines of code in existing structures. They've heard that it can't deal with old programming languages that they don't have training data for. We've proven all of those trepidations to be wrong, and we've shown over and over again that the Spec Kitty process builds upon the developer's know-how and then brings a structure to the teamwork with AI coding that wouldn't otherwise exist. There's another magical moment that I really love in these trainings. In both the planning and the specification phases of Spec Kitty interviews you based on what you've asked for. If you've asked for a feature, then it looks at your code and it looks at the specification that you've given for the feature, and it thinks very hard about what's missing, what could go wrong, what's unclear, what's best practice, what exists in the code already in terms of patterns that might exist, and then it asks you questions to clarify that the Spec Kitty intention is matched with the human intention.
Nice.
So what it does, so the lead developer sits down, gets going, puts copies Jira, pastes it into Spec Kitty, and it says, okay, should the button be red or blue? And the lead developer's like, well, clearly it's going to be blue because I always make it blue. And the other lead developer says, hey, buddy, is that where all those blue buttons are coming from? I've been having a problem with those. I always make them red. And the other guy's like, what? Really? And they talk about this. And then they go on to the next one. And there's like, should the background be white or yellow? And it's like, well, clearly it should be yellow. And then the product owner says, hey, we were in customer discussions last week, and they said they hate the yellow backgrounds. You need the white backgrounds. And there's like, what? Nobody told us that. That wasn't in Jira. And then they go on and they do the next one. And all of a sudden the CEO perks up and says, oh, hey, is that issue that we were talking about last week?
Nice.
I want to make sure that gets in this time. So what we have, and I've seen this one time after the other in these trainings, is a form of alignment on the entire team across stakeholders about what's being built, how it's being built, and why it's being built, that team has not experienced in years, perhaps, because they never do this exercise together. So one of the things that Spec Kitty can do is surface these decision-making junctures where more people in the RACI matrix have to be involved. The developer who's leading it might be responsible, but there's somebody else who's accountable for that. And there's somebody who needs to be consulted and somebody else who needs to be informed, and maybe multiple of those people. And Spec Kitty helps with that.
Wow. So it's a communication tool. It's an accelerator of code time, and it allows the teams to work on a project together simultaneously.
Yes.
Well, who's the competition for something like this, Rob?
Well, there are many frameworks that are burgeoning that claim to do specification-driven development. Maybe the best backed one is called Kiro, backed by Amazon, AWS. And that is basically a Visual Studio code clone with agentic capabilities built in. So it's maybe a cursor competitor at first blush. Spec Kitty actually works with that too. They've just got their own concept of the specification process that is not quite as full-fledged as ours. What none of the other competitors have that I've seen is the teamwork level that we're building in. So what we're building in is a free and open source product that works as a Python command line tool that you install with pip or UV or from GitHub as a developer. And then you can use that without ever telling us or calling home or making any commitment to you and me or our company. But the moment that you need teamwork involved and you want a dashboard of what all of your developers are doing with SpecKitty all at once, the moment you want to be able to connect to Jira or Linear and have bi-directional synchronization of the tickets and the specifications when they're done and notifications and be able to see the cross dependencies, or the moment you want these decision-making points to spill over into Slack or Teams, then you need our SpecKitty Teams solution, where you connect SpecKitty Local to SpecKitty Teams, and it branches out into all of those other concerns, which is ideal for a development company or an agency or a product company of any kind. For a solo developer, you don't need that. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And it's a nice contribution to a solo developer. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing that's going to be happening as the MVP of the SaaS and what that feature set's going to look like.
So the SpecKitty online experience will start with your SpecKitty tool, and you'll connect that. You'll say, I want to log in. I want to authenticate. You'll also then want to invite your team members. So remember, it's 4 team members. So you'll invite those people to come in. And then once they're all in, you already start to see what they're working on with SpecKitty and the status and how it relates to what you're doing. And then you hook up the connectors. Are you using GitHub or GitLab? Are you using Jira or Linear? Are you using Slack? Later we'll add Teams, we'll add Azure DevOps, we'll add whatever customers ask for. But at the beginning we'll have Jira and Linear, GitHub, GitLab, and Slack. And you'll connect those, and then you'll be able to pull the tickets into SpecKitty process, get bi-directional updates onto Jira or Linear as SpecKitty moves along. You'll be able to correlate what SpecKitty's doing with your Git commit hashes on GitHub or GitLab, and you'll be able to talk about the decision-making process and get notifications about SpecKitty activities in Slack.
That's beautiful. Well, I know it's been a pearl of great price, as all important things are, and I appreciate your dedication and commitment to getting this thing pushed forward. Is there anything you want to comment on before we close it out today?
No, thank you for your support and belief as well, because I know that the first thing that we were working on was very tangible since it was your idea. And then I started talking about this SpecKitty thing, and I made a cute little logo, a mascot for it that I started publishing on LinkedIn, and it might have all come across as a little bit foreign, but you're a trooper, man. You picked up the gauntlet and learned how to do vibe coding with SpecKitty, and you even built a browser plugin to like manage your online activities. And now we're off to the races, and I think we're going to do great things with this.
I think so too, and we've got a great team assembled in the background as we progress through this process of taking an idea, improving it, moving it into SaaS, and then building it into a true enterprise level tool that will help people and teams not only communicate, but take 10-day tickets and churn them out in a day or less. So I'm really excited to see where we end up with this. Thanks,
Likewise.
Rob. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.